Good evening, my dear friends. I welcome you all to the Hindu and the Businessline editorial analysis on June 17, 2022. Today, the first editorial I am going to discuss is from the Hindu and yesterday's, that is June 16, 2022's Businessline editorial. The editorial discusses the announcement of the Prime Minister to create over 10 lakhs, to employ over 10 lakhs people in the government sector. Government is intending to employ the 10 lakh people in railways, defense and GST departments. India has the most significant demographic dividend in the world. What is demographic dividend, my dear friends? Demographic dividend is the ratio of number of employable people over the unemployed people. So, having the rich demographic dividend helps India a lot, so that the people, the human capital resources is much in India. However, the periodic labor force survey revealed that around 6% of Indian population are unemployed. The weekly unemployment rate is 7.5%. The unemployment for people who are more than postgraduate is 9%, but decreasing marginally. The unemployed persons between 18 and 35, that is the youth, is 19%. All these figures show that the labor force participation has increased to 41% from 40% earlier. The periodic labor force survey shows that today, if there is 6% unemployment rate, it was 4.2% in 2020 to 21 and 4% in 2019-20. That is, after the pandemic, unemployment rate has increased. Some say government's announcement of 10 lakhs jobs is a political statement to win elections, the coming assembly elections and the 2024 union elections. Already there are 8 lakhs vacancies in the government sector that has to be filled up. Come, let us understand with the help of a diagram what is this periodic labor force survey. Friends, look at the picture. This is the data given on the labor rate participation by the periodic labor force survey. It is divided gender wise and the total figure is also given. The figures are spreading over 2017-18 to 2020-21. You can see from the figure that male participation, labor rate participation has increased from 55.5 in 2017-18 to 57.5 in 2020-21. The total labor force participation has increased from 36.9 in 2017-18 to 41.6 in 2020-21. The female labor rate participation has increased from 17.5 to 25.1. So, this is the labor rate participation rate, my dear friends. Just look. The next article I am going to discuss is common for the Hindu and the Businessline. That is Federal Reserve, that is United States of America's central bank's recent announcement to raise the interest rates by 75 basis points. The Federal Reserve has been raising the interest rates since March. In the Goldman Sachs predicts that it will be increasing again and again in the coming months. The Federal Reserve, the US Central Bank, has a Federal Open Market Committee. That is the committee which decides the increase in the interest rates. And Federal Open Market Committee has decided to go on with the interest rate hikes. And the government also the US government also tries to reduce the liquidity in the market by stopping the selling of treasury bonds the treasury US treasury bonds. So in the coming days we are going to see that tightening measures, that is inflation tightening measures. In USA inflation is hovering above 8.5 percentage. That is an alarming signal. US is on to a recession. We will understand with the help of a graph and with the help of a picture the US Federal Reserve hike which is being predicted by Goldman Sachs. The US dollar index, which is the index against six currencies, that is Canadian dollar, Swedish krona, Switzerland, Czech, then British pound and euro, is breaching the 105 mark. What does it mean? The rupee weakens against this. When US dollar index breaches the 105 mark, it means that the rupee weakens. Let us also understand with the help of a diagram how this US the dollar index is composed. As can be seen from the picture, the Federal Reserve rate hike, which is being predicted by Goldman Sachs, a banking company, from March from 0.3 to April 0.5. In May it is 0.8, in June it is 1, and in the coming months it is going to be 1.5, 1.8, and by the time it reaches December 2022 it is going to be 2%. Friends, this is yet another benchmark index which has repercussions for the world economy. This is the currency index, that is dollar index of the US dollar, which determines the value of all other currencies in the global economy. It has implications for Indian rupee also. As can be seen from the picture, the US dollar index is pitted against Euro, Japanese yen, Great Britain pound, Canadian dollar, Swedish krona, and Swiss franc. All these currencies are, this bunch of six currencies are the determining factor of the US dollar. These are standard currencies against which the US benchmark index is determined. Friends, the next article I am going to deal with is about the issues in the coalition government of the Naftali Bennett government in Israel. Naftali Bennett government came into being after toppling the Benjamin Netanyahu government by one seat majority. In the 120 member Knesset is the Israeli parliament. In the 120 member Knesset, Israel government has many coalition partners, and Naftali Bennett is going to share government foreign minister Yasser Lupid on a 50-50 terms. The article discusses the kind of unrest which Israel is facing under Naftali Bennett government. He is trying to satisfy almost all the components of his governance, the Arab components, the Israeli components, the Jew components of the government. Recently, there has been lots of unrest in Israel. There was a march to the Al-Aqsa Mosque, which is very much important for Jews, the Muslims, and the Christians. So, this kind of unrest, and there has been the march commemorating the 1967 Israeli war in West Bank, Gaza, and the Goldman was caught by the Israeli forces from the Arab forces, from the Egyptian and Palestinian forces. So it also discusses how a journalist has been killed by the Israeli forces and an Iranian has been killed by the Israeli forces. Iranian, the Iranian was the member of the Iranian force, and the article also says that almost all Israeli governments have been just following the populism policy of hating Iran and opposing its nuclear support. The article also goes on to explain the $10 billion worth of partnership with UAE, bilateral trade with UAE and Saudi Arabian coalition, which the government favors now. So the article is a beautiful exposition of the crisis which Israel faces now in the hands of Naftali Bennett. Come, let us discuss with the help of a diagram the composition of the Naftali Bennett government. Look at the left side of the half circle. There are around 8 parties forming the Israeli government. Yesh Atid, Blue and White, Israeli Beitenu, Labour, Yamina, New Hope, Meretz and United Arab List. All these people, all these 8 groups come together 60 seats in the 120 Knesset. Knesset is the parliament of the Israeli government. So see, lots of hues and colors forming the coalition of the Israeli government. The next article I am going to discuss with the electronic vehicles sales growth in India which appeared in the Businessline. The electronic vehicle sales now touches 2.5% and it was 1% earlier. So the article discusses what are the hiccups in implementing the growth of the electronic vehicle segment in India in comparison with the internal combustion engines. It says that the number of electrical charging stations is the infrastructure regarding with the electrical charging stations is very much less in India. It has to improve on this infrastructure. The next is interoperability. We know that in internal combustion engines petrol pumps, almost all vehicles will be getting the petrol requirements. Such kind of interoperability is missing in electronic vehicle segment. The next issue which crops up is that the easy financing for the electrical vehicles is not coming. The banks charge a very high interest rates. Let us understand with the help of diagrams the electronic vehicles segment in India, its growth and the composition. As can be seen from the picture, the number of electrical vehicles and the market size have improved a manifold from 22,000 vehicles, EV vehicles in financial year 2016 to 5,50,346 EV vehicles in 2022. It is slated to grow by manifold as can be seen from the future projections. Yet another picture, it can be seen that the electrical vehicle segment is set to grow. The dearth of chargers, the sufficient number of charging stations in India prompted the government to grow the direct current, that is battery operated electrical vehicles in future. See how the composition of direct DC vehicles, EV vehicles are going to take over the market. In 2019, the EV vehicles market size was $1,027,900. In 2025, the market size is slated to grow to $13,833,000. Friends, the next article I am going to deal with logistics needs the paradigm shift. The logistics segment is a important segment in India which facilitates transport of all means. The shipping transport, the road transport, and the inland waterways transport, the air transport. However, the logistics sector employment is in very much crisis. Logistics sector requires human intervention because the vehicles are driven by drivers. There is huge gap in the employability and the actual employment in the logistics sector. There are certain factors contributing to the lacuna in the employment in the logistics sector. One is there is no kind of development, the social development of the logistics sector. Some people do not like, even though they know driving, they do not like to be truck drivers because the social status is upset. The next is that there is no employment security. The logistics sector prefers younger generation more than the experienced staff. So when the younger generation is employed, the experienced staff loses job. Then the crisis lies in the workforce development. Workforce development implies providing amenities and welfares to the logistics sector drivers and employees. This is missing in the logistics sector. Hence, the logistics sector is crippled, and the match between the employability and the employment is very much wide. Come let us understand with the help of a diagram what is this logistics sector all about. The logistics sector or the transportation sector is all encompassing within its scope. As can be seen from the picture, there is road logistics, there is shipping logistics, there is warehouse logistics. All this implies transportation, the packaging logistics, the robot logistics, then the steamer logistics. All this come under the transportation and the logistics sector. This is the most infrastructural sector in India.